You bet your ass. I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things, all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you've been following my channel, you know that I am a belt mark. I love wrestling championships. And since I got a brand new one in my collection, probably the best one I've ever actually gotten, it's a high-quality replica, I figured it was time to rank my top 11 world championships. Now, disclaimers and criteria. This is all my opinion. This is not fact. And as far as criteria, I had to think about it a little bit. Like, we all know that I love the NXT UK Championship, but should that count as a world championship? It doesn't, because it is the UK Championship. But on that note, the NXT Championship is going to be in here, and some people might go like, well, that's never been actually called a world championship. Well, it's the top championship on NXT. They have a North American Championship, so it's a world championship. It's been defended in Japan and the UK, so we're just going with it. Now, those of you who've been watching since the beginning, I have done my top 11 favorite championships before, although that list does need to be updated because we've gotten some new championships out, and I think they need to get into the list. However, this is all just strictly world championships, top prizes. So let's get to it. In at number 11, the very first version of the TNA Championship, the one that they got after they severed ties with the NWA. I really liked this championship. No, it wasn't as big as the one that came out next, but then again, that one was too big. And then after that, they had the GFW Championship, and now they have their current Impact Championship, which is a good-looking championship, but I wouldn't say it's great. This one I thought was great. To me, with the eagle on the front, it was a little bit of a throwback, in my opinion, to the Winged Eagle Championship, but still very distinctive in its own right. I really did like this one, and I was really sad when TNA had to get rid of it. In at number 10, the IWGP Championship version 3. This one, when it comes to fans of the New Japan titles, there is argument over which one was better, the version 3 or the version 4. And honestly, to me, they're very, very close. The version 3 was a very beautiful-looking championship until Brock Lesnar won it, took it back to the United States, and refused to come back and defend it. Whereas I liked the version 3 championship, the version 4, in my opinion, was a slight improvement, which is why we're going to see it later in this list. But this was still a very, very gorgeous championship. In at number 9, the second version of the Ring of Honor Championship. The original Ring of Honor Championship was a very beautiful-looking championship. However, it was a little bit plain. There was no thrills to it, which, again, I've talked about sometimes less is more. But in this case, this one was much, much better. The one it was replaced by, I didn't feel it was as good. I like the current one. It's gorgeous too, but this one of Ring of Honors was my absolute favorite. And in my opinion, it was really a shame that it wasn't around longer. And at number 8, the IWGP Championship version 4. I told you it'd be later on this list, I just didn't say how far later. Like I said, it was very, very close to the number 3, which is why I really don't argue with it amongst other belt fans when they say that the version 3 was better. My attitude on that is like, okay, I'm not going to argue on that one because it's too close. However, I did just like this one a little bit better. I like that they had the lions instead of the eagle because to me that was very distinctive to New Japan Pro Wrestling with their whole logo and everything. In at number 7, going very old school, the 1986 version of the WWF Championship. A belt that was only worn by Hogan, came right before the Winged Eagle Championship, but I did really like this belt. It was big, it had a simplistic design with the pillars on the ends and whatnot. I always did like this belt very much, but I did like it when it was replaced. At number 6, a very new addition to the world of championship belts. Not to mention the first time I can say that I've ever actually put a women's championship on one of my favorites lists, but the new and current version of the AEW Women's World Championship. This belt debuted at their last pay-per-view Revolution, and instantly I was like, oh my god, that is amazing. Not gonna lie, in my initial reaction, I was like, how are you changing it again so quickly? But you know what? Who cares when it looks that good? I like the fact that it's uniform. It kind of goes along with the AEW World Championship, but it's its own distinctive belt. Also, it is very reminiscent of the Mid-Atlantic North American Championship, except that belt was way too big, and the fact that it didn't have very much gold to the nickel plating was kind of ugly. But this AEW Women's World Championship with the gold plating and the fact that it's smaller, obviously to fit more around a woman because it is a women's championship, it is freaking beautiful. And again, I've never really said that about a women's championship because, truth be told, in the past, it always kind of felt like with a women's championship, it was like, we got to give something to the women, so just throw something together. No real effort put into them, i.e. the WWF Women's Championship back in the day. Like, there was almost nothing to the design, very, very little, and it really just looked like they just had to get something out now, so here you go. This looked like it had some real effort put into it, some real thought, and it came out absolutely stunning. I love this belt already. In at number 5, the World Heavyweight Championship, the WWE version. There isn't a whole lot of difference between the WWE version and the old WCW version of the big gold belt, except for two things. At the very top of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, they put their logo of WWE, the scratch logo, and later it came with a red backing, which I really did like. The only other real distinct difference between the two belts was the main plate on the WWE version was a little curved, so it was better form-fitting when a wrestler wore it, which I've talked about before. One of the most important things about a belt is that it actually looks good on the champion, and this one looked good on pretty much every champion who held it, versus the WCW one didn't actually look good on everybody it was on, just because the flat plate, some people, it just kind of looked like bulky and it was like it was sagging off of them, which is the only reason I gave this one the slight edge. But either way, the design overall, I've always really liked this one. In at number 4, the NXT Championship, the current one. Again, I'm going to get a little bit of flack on this. People are going to be going like, technically it's not a world championship. But yes, it is. It's been defended internationally. And again, how can it not be a world championship when their mid-card championship is the North American Championship? Because if you thought about it technically, if you're just the champion of NXT, but he's the champion of North America, then his title is the main title. But overall, while it is a simplistic design, you know, the big X in the middle, NXT, it's just very beautiful and it works. And it's definitely a big improvement on its predecessor. And like I've said before, sometimes simpler is better. In at number 3, the WWE Undisputed Championship. What I've also said is the last really good-looking WWE Championship they really had. I remember when this debuted, I absolutely loved it. They unified both the WWE and the World Heavyweight Championship, so they needed one belt, and when it came out, I was like, man, that is freaking fantastic. It is beautiful. And then they replaced it with the spinner belt. Why? And even since the spinner belt, they've had the scratch logo belt, and now they just have the current logo belt, which the current one is okay. Never been a huge fan of it, but it is okay. But, like I said, the Undisputed Championship, in my opinion, was their last really good-looking World Championship. Really wish they'd go back to having really good-looking championships. In at number 2, the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. People have talked about it's had different versions. Okay, they've put a little bit more gold plating, the nickel here and there, but ultimately the design overall has been pretty much the same the entire time, and it's always been beautiful. I remember the anticipation leading up to the first Double or Nothing when they were going to unveil their championship, and me just hoping that it was going to look good, especially after they had hinted that it was going to be inspired by the Mid-Atlantic North American Championship. That kind of scared me because that wasn't a good-looking championship, but this was. I like how the side plates look like they connect to the main plate. I like all the jewels. I like how it all fits together. I like the nickel and the gold plating. The moment this debuted, it instantly became my second favorite. But there is one more that so far no other championship has ever been able to overcome. Which brings us to the number 1 spot, my favorite world championship of all time, which is actually my favorite championship of all time, the classic WWF Winged Eagle Championship. Yes, I've heard the criticisms that this one was the smallest championship they had. At the time, their mid-card championship and tag team championships were bigger than this, but bigger isn't always better. Because this was, just in my opinion, the most perfectly designed championship that they had ever come up with and have ever come up with. I've yet to see something that I like more than this. Even with the gorgeous new belts that they have been coming out with year after year, like in AEW, the TNT Championship is beautiful. I love it. Ring of Honor has some good-looking titles. MLW has some good-looking titles. The past, TNA used to have some really good-looking championships, but nothing ever, in my opinion, has come close to how good-looking the WWE Winged Eagle Championship is. To me, again, it was the simplistic eagle design that took up most of the belt. To me, this title just screamed the embodiment of a world champion. And I honestly don't know if they will ever come up with a championship I like better than this one, just because it was so gorgeous. So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notifications for when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me if you agree with my list. Tell me if you don't agree with my list. Tell me your favorite world championships. Tell me if you think there's one that I should have put in the list. Love you guys.